nearly crying. Jungkook fell silent as Jimin laughed with the other members. That day seemed like a normal day. BTS is gathering to shoot exclusive content before each member returns to their military service. The room is full of jokes and laughter. All seem comfortable, like a family that has been together for many years. But for those paying closer attention, there was one brief moment that shook the hearts of the army. A laugh from Jim, one silent look from Jungkook, and suddenly everything feels different. The incident was recorded in a video clip lasting no more than 30 seconds. In it, Jimin is joking with Taeyoung V and Jin. They laughed loudly, talking about something that seemed very funny. Jimin held Taeyoung's arm as he bent over from laughing too hard. His wide smile looked so sincere, his eyes even watery. Then the camera, by accident, captured Jungkook's face. He sat not far from them, not smiling, not laughing. He just fell silent. He looked at Jimin, not with anger, not with gross jealousy, but with a jumbled expression that's hard to explain between sadness, longing, and loss of direction. That's the second where thousands of ARMY in the comments began to write, "Why is Jungkook looking at me like that? He looks empty. Is he okay? Please." It's not just an ordinary look. It's no secret that Jungkook and Jimin have a relationship that is more than just a group of friends. They have shared many moments, from spontaneous hugs backstage, sincere words in live broadcasts, to unconditional support in difficult times. But this moment is different, because for the first time, the camera captured Jungkook not being with Jimin, but seeing Jimin from a distance, and in that look, there was a wound that couldn't be hidden. A staff member on the set revealed that after the shoot was over, Jungkook pulled into the waiting room early. It doesn't say much, just ask for time alone. This makes the other members a little worried, especially J-Hope, who is known to be very sensitive to Jungkook's mood. Meanwhile, Jimin, who had just noticed Jungkook's expression change, looked agitated. The same source mentioned that he looked at the waiting room door several times, as if he wanted to catch up, but did not dare. A few minutes later, both disappeared from the public space. Not seen on camera, no sound. It's just a sudden silence. Armies around the world who watched the footage felt their hearts break. Because even if the moment is short, it contains a million flavors. A lingering feeling, a sense of wanting to be together that is hindered by the situation, and a sense of loss for something that was once close, but is now beginning to feel distant. Comments on social media were filled with speculation. Jungkook wanted to be by Jimin's side, but he couldn't. Maybe he's trying to let Jimin laugh freely. The pain is obvious. We've all been in that position. A few days after the incident, in a voice-only broadcast on the fan community app, Jungkook briefly said, "Sometimes we have to shut up, not because we don't care, but because we care too much." The sentence was immediately connected by ARMY to a quiet moment when Jimin laughed with other members. Moreover, Jimin himself also wrote in the evening community, "I'm always happy to see my loved ones happy. But sometimes I forget that I also want him to know I've never forgotten him." Those two sentences, two hearts that speak without naming names. But everyone knows who they mean. Is this a sign that their relationship is strained? Or is it precisely a phase in which they give each other room to grow? ARMY knows one thing. True love is not about always being together on one side, but it's about being able to see the people we love laugh, even if sometimes we're not the reason behind the laughter. The night after the incident, the atmosphere in the dorm felt quieter than usual. The members had returned to their respective rooms after a grueling shoot, but for two of them, Jungkook and Jimin, tired of the day is not just physical. There's something deeper. There are emotions piling up, waiting to be released, but stalled at the end of the throat. Jungkook sat by himself in the small rehearsal room they used to use for vocal training. In his hands, a notebook of lyrics. But that night, the blank page was too hard to fill. He just stared at one spot in front of the mirror. His mind drifted to Jimin's laughter this afternoon, loose, light, and somehow very distant. He remembered how Jimin laughed with Taeyoung. He didn't hate that laugh. I'm not jealous of Taeyoung. But there was a space within him that suddenly felt empty, as if he were standing outside the circle that had always held them together. the door of the room suddenly opened slowly. Light steps in. Jungkook didn't have to turn to see who was coming. There was only one person who could fill the silence with such a subtle presence, Jimin. Jim stood up and said nothing. He just stared at Jungkook's back for a few seconds. Then with a slow step, he sat down next to her. No greeting, no questions asked. Only the heavy breathing of the two souls kept too many words. Then Jungkook's voice sounded, softly, almost like a whisper, "You looked so happy earlier." Jimin was silent. He knew the meaning of that sentence. I also know it's not about jealousy. It's about fear. About losing positions that used to always be on each other's side. "I am happy," replied Jimin slowly, "but not because of who is next to me. My happiness comes from the person I always look up to even though he is not near me." Jungkook's eyes slowly turned, looking at Jimin's face. In his eyes, there was something that wanted to break, but was held back. And finally, for the first time in a long time, he said in a trembling voice, "I'm afraid one day that laughter won't be for me anymore." Jimin smiled softly. He held Jungkook's cold hand in anxiety. "Jungkook, you're always the reason I smile, even when you're not aware." A small cry broke out in Jungkook's eyes. He never cried in front of the members, except for the most painful moments. But that night, her tears fell not out of anger, not out of jealousy, but because of the love that does not know how to be guarded in the middle of a world full of restrictions. After that night, the two did not talk much about what happened. But the change is felt in the way they look at each other, in how Jimin began to steal more time sitting next to Jungkook while filming. In a way, Jungkook comes back smiling every time Jimin enters the room, but the outside world didn't know the story behind the silence. All they know is that Jungkook is back active in the fan community. He uploaded a photo with a simple caption, "Laughing with you is how I survive." While Jimin wrote in his bio profile, "Smile. Someone is watching you secretly." ARMY read the two sentences and immediately linked them. They know. They feel the vibration. Comments flow. It must be about Jungkook and Jimin. Their love language is not always seen, but always felt. Time flies. Their days as active soldiers were approaching. But that little moment, Jimin's laughter and Jungkook's silence, became an enduring piece of the story in ARMY's memory. Not because of drama, not because of speculation, but since all never felt like Jungkook, loves in silence, afraid of loss, but still wants to see the person happy, and all were once Jimin, laughing with the world, but in our hearts. There was only one person we really wanted to laugh with. A few weeks after that moment of silence, both have begun to serve their active military duty in different units. But the distance actually makes everything feel clearer. Not away, but rather clarify what they have never been able to say directly. I, in the midst of busy training and harsh military routines, Jungkook had sent a letter, not through social media, not through staff, but in an old, almost forgotten way. Handwriting. The letter reached Jimin through an internal line between units. Not long, only one sheet, but every sentence makes Jimin's chest tightness when reading it. That day, I was silent not because I was angry. I'm just afraid that I'm starting to lose you. But that night, you erased all my fears. Thank you for still choosing to see me, even though the other world made you laugh. Jimin kept the letter between the pages of his notebook. And in the same book, he wrote a reply, "You're never not my home, Jungkook. You're always home. Even when I'm lost, even when I'm laughing somewhere else. I still want to go home to you." The reply was never officially delivered. But when the two met again at a joint training event a few weeks later, Jimin slipped the little paper into Jungkook's jacket pocket, quietly, without a word. When night falls and Jungkook finds her, he just smiles a little. He didn't cry. No more feeling anxious. Because finally, everything is clear. They don't need more words. They don't need recognition from the world. Because they already understand each other. And in the silence that used to hurt, there is now peace. If you want, I can continue part 3 when they meet again after service.